We are here with the Danvers Accessibility Commission on Thursday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. I do have a script I need to read, so I'm going to go through that. As a preliminary matter, I am Christy Showman-Fair, the chair of the Accessibility Commission, and with me I have Jasmine Ramon as support staff from the town's Equity and Inclusion Department. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Lopes.
Here.
JD Martz.
Here.
Vaughn Anderson.
Here.
Lauren Ferrari.
Here.
Okay, and we right now don't have Jody Mailer, who will not be able to join us, or Mara Kaufman. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jasmine Ramon.
Here.
Okay. And we don't have any anticipated speakers this time. So this is sorry for everybody who hasn't sat through a online town meeting, but I have to read this. Good evening. This open meeting of the Danvers Accessibility Commission
that you can submit to MassDOT to have them come and survey your crossing and potentially install them themselves.
Fantastic.
I can post that into the chat as well. Just so
great.
You guys
yes, please. Do you know if that is something that an application that has to be submitted by a town employee, or if any public can submit it?
It kind of looks like any public, just based on what it's asking.
Okay. Because I do feel like we had some, I know I can't find it right now, but some data on how much that was, but I don't see that here. So, okay, where did the chat go? Yeah. Oh, Teams. Okay, there it is.
Okay. I think I can just toss it in there.
Okay.
Maybe not.
If you can't get it into the chat, if you want to email it to me, and I'll make sure that we add it to our minutes so everybody gets it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Since you found that, would you like to take on the application part, and we can?
Totally. I already started filling it out, actually.
Nice. Great. Okay. And what about the parking spot and van unloading hash marks? Is everybody familiar with that? Or JD, do you want to give a quick overview again?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just that one spot we were talking about initially, at least, in between Cherry Street and that kind of public parking lot. And it's just that one spot that could definitely be converted to hash marks and have it a van unloading spot next to it. So it would just be probably swapping that with maybe one of the other handicap spots that are in the lot. If there's some kind of cap, I don't know if that makes it easier to just do a one-to-one, changeover, which is kind of what we were talking about last time. And there's pictures on that document. I have that up there, and that kind of exactly where it is.
Yep.
And that I feel like that would definitely be a pretty easy one for us to get.
I mean, my thinking seems that it's just paint, but obviously there's probably some hoops to jump through. So does somebody want to take on reaching out to DPW to see what that would take on?
I can take it on.
I'm happy to do that.
Oh,
okay. I'm going to go with, thank you for both of you. Let Lauren, Fawn, you have a lot that you're going to share in a little bit. You did some amazing work this last month, so thank you. Okay, so I think we can stick with those two at least for this first round, and then like I said, I do have a prioritization activity that I would like us to go through. And so with that said, if there are other items that you have thought of since that initial meeting that you want to add to this list, feel free to email me and I can add them, and I actually can create we can take this document and make it kind of a shared document for the future, because I think it would be a great thing to continue to add items to this list that we can start working from. Does anybody have comment on this? I'm gonna do roll call comment. Kathy, do you have any comments?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. JD?
No, not so far.
Okay. Thank you for your amazing work already.
Well, yeah, no problem.
Lauren?
No, no thanks.
Okay. Fawn?
Nope, thank you.
Okay. Wow, we are zipping through this. Okay. So fourth on our agenda is Accessibility Commission resources. And I'm going to turn this over to Fawn because you did some fantastic research this last month. Does everybody have that document? It's the Local Commissions on Disability document. Okay, that's what we're working on. So Fawn, go ahead. Do you want to share what you
Hi,
found?
everybody. Thank you for your kind words. I don't feel like I did amazing amounts of research, but Stephanie Jarash had given me the name of someone at the Lowell, what they call Disability Commission, and I had spoken with her, Beth Brazel. So to talk about, we can talk about the voting machine topic tonight, or we can save that for another point, but she had given me some great ideas there. Is that something I should be discussing tonight, or shall we make it more general about the community?
No, I think that's fine too, because that's all included on that document that you created. I think it's all related to the work that you've done in the last month.
Sounds great. So what I thought was interesting is Beth shared a little bit how their disability commission is funded, which they get a percentage. And I believe in Lowell, I believe she told me it was 100% of all of the handicap parking violation money comes into their coffers. So that's how they are able to fund some of the programs that they're interested in promoting. So I thought that was worth looking into. I have not looked into that any further. They've really been focusing on the specific AutoMark machines, and I think they've been very pleased with what they've been using there. So we can, look at that, but I think we all have the information about the cost of those, and they are pretty expensive. And some other great ideas I thought they had. They had the ESL interpretation for voting, which as far as I know, we do not have. I think that would be great. The assisted listening devices for meetings, which gives each person their own receiver so that they can be hearing things privately. And the poll workers can communicate with an individual voter. Clear fronted masks for first responders were something that they funded, which I thought was interesting. I would think that that funding would come from somewhere else, but it's just been an eye-opening experience to think about what things are provided and what things are just not. I made a lot of assumptions, obviously, along the way. And then I did not do this yet, but she had recommended, she gave a name, this Jeff Dugan at the Mass Office on Disability, and said he would be more than happy to come to one of our meetings and really give us some ideas about how we can best access resources to use on our Accessibility Commission to get more funding, things that we're probably already eligible for that we're just maybe not aware of. So I thought that was really great. The Salem Disability Resource Center, it says on the form that I had sent emails twice and hadn't heard how to reply. I actually have had a reply, and I replied back to them, and we haven't gotten any further. So I think there's potential there for some good communication and collaboration, but I had just described to them, I was hoping to understand better how they had identified in Salem and in the surrounding communities that they serve, what projects had the greatest need, where the interest lay, and how they went about beginning and initiating those things. So that's what I had requested, but I'm sure that they're really busy and just haven't had a chance. So I will circle back to them. I'm going to make a note to myself. And then the final paragraph there, I had just basically gone on the web and found what other towns seem to be doing. Seems like some towns don't have anything, at least not on their town websites, and other towns seem to have some pretty highly active groups. I don't know if we want to bring up as a topic of trying to attend or collaborate with any of these groups and put our heads together, or if we want to focus first on trying to work on projects on our own first and then reach out to them if we run into questions, concerns, obstacles. But I don't know how much more you'd like me to share. I know it's all written on the form.
No, I think that's great. No, and I appreciate it because the public doesn't have access to this, so it's good to have it all part of this
Oh,
meeting.
right. Thank you. I forgot that.
So I'm going to go through roll call for comments for the commission. Kathy, you have any comments or
Just
thoughts?
thank you for doing this. One thing I thought of when you were saying about like even the clear fronted mask for the first responders, our first responders knowing who in our town would fall into our accessibility. Like I kind of want to see if we can start a program or something that we can make them aware of who's who. So that when you thought of that, I was like, you know, like I would love my daughter to be known that if they have to come to my house, that there's a reason. So that just came to mind when you were speaking, Fawn. So thank you.
That's good. I wrote that down, Kathy. I think that's a good thing to add to our list of ideas. Thank you. JD?
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I think there's definitely would be some benefit, I think, to just seeing how some of these other commissions operate. Maybe I don't know if there's a way to see which are, I don't know, have had made the most progress or something like that, because those might be the best to look at. I know we kind of have our priorities, and I think we're doing good and on the right track. But I think it'd be especially valuable, like you were saying, if we do hit any snags. So I'll look into some of those and I'll see what I can attend to. But yeah, I think it's great.
Cool. Thank you. Absolutely. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of potential for us to either, you know, see if the meetings are recorded and we can watch some, or can reach out to them and attend future meetings. So we can either, you know, divide and conquer, or, you know, have a field trip at some point if people are interested. I think it makes a lot of sense to see what other people are doing, so we're not starting all over from scratch. Okay, Lauren, any comments?
No, just great work. I mean, I think it's nice to have, you know, a document like this to at least we can start from here. And I concur that I think if, you know, two heads are better than one. So if they're, you know, obviously talk to the more people we, you know, talk to are in doing similar work, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think thank you. Sorry. Sometimes my brain gets ahead of my mouth and like it's really hard for the words to come out in a good way. Okay. I am happy to reach out to Jeff Dugan at the Mass Office on Disability and see if he can join us for a future meeting and give him some options. Yes, Jasmine.
I did just want to name that I actually have been in communication with him like in the very beginning,
Awesome.
like before we started, because I wanted to ask like, can they name themselves anything and what can they do? So he was pretty communicative. So if it helps you, Chrissy, just to name that,
Okay.
like he had already been in contact with me, I guess.
Okay.
But so that connection is there.
Great. Thank you. And I think it actually might be a good point also to just confirm our meeting dates, since we did have a little bit of confusion between last month and this month. So are we officially the last Thursday or the fourth Thursday? Jasmine, do you know? Or does it matter or are we deciding?
You decide, and I will figure out the space on the back end. I believe right now in the calendar, I had booked the Toomey room for, my mistake had been for the fourth Thursday. But if you change it right here and now, like,
Okay.
I will figure out a space for us.
Okay. Does the fourth Thursday work for everybody? You know, like, let's go, Kathy.
Yeah.
I see nods. Okay. Okay. So fourth Thursday, because yes, I think what we did was we said last, thinking fourth, and then without realizing that March had 5 Thursdays, which then, yes, Jasmine.
I also just want to know, like, I don't want to fall in the trap of those of us who are here deciding
Right.
and those of us who could
Yes.
not make it.
So I can
because
reach
I
out.
believe I know Jody's schedule gets set in advance because
Okay.
they are taking off from work, and I know
Right.
similarly Mara had made a comment about, okay, like I'll see you on the last Thursday of whatever month comes next.
Right.
So I just want to remind us
So
of that too.
yeah, so I can reach out to Jody and Maura and make sure, confirm. The good news is that April only has 4 Thursdays. So at least for April, and let me confirm. I had it up and then it went away. Oh, hi. Too many tabs open, y'all.
Christy, I'm not looking
Yes.
at a calendar, but I want to say that the 4th Thursday is going to be April vacation week.
Yes, I do
the
believe
school.
we already discussed that. I think that came up in our last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did we?
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I
I
wouldn't
don't.
be able to be there.
Okay.
It came up, but we didn't discuss what we would do about that,
Okay.
which we can also talk about right now too.
Yeah. Oh, May also only has 4. So we don't have an issue between the 4th and 5th until we get to June again. So I think, so I will reach out to Jody and Maura about that, and we can then next meeting confirm, knowing that Fawn, the 4th Thursday works for you, generally speaking. Okay. And you know, we, as much as I want to make sure people are at as many meetings as possible, we do have our alternates for voting purposes for those times, because everybody has a life. You guys don't have to be here for every single meeting. Okay.
Can
So
I just one more
yes.
time, because
Yes,
I'm
please.
paranoid. Meeting dates will be the 4th Thursday of each month.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But confirming with our other 2 members. And if there is a conflict, we will have to go to a vote on that.
April
Yes,
vacation
Kathy.
is not the 4th April of this. It's the week of the 17th.
You're right. Excellent. Thank you.
Those
Yes.
dates.
Yeah, so
So
that
it's
this year it is the 3rd week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
It's always with the 19th, so it's always the 3rd week.
Okay. I'm so glad you know that. I literally have too many tabs open. So, okay. I did want to go back to some of what Fawn had on your really awesome list. The Salem Disability Resource Center. I'm happy to go visit and see if they have a physical space and meet and see what kinds of resources they have. If anybody is interested, yes, Fawn.
I was actually going to, before we moved on, I wanted to make sure, I actually
Yes.
went onto their website. They do have a physical space. It's Congress Street, Suite
Oh,
107.
great. Okay.
And they have a flyer that I printed out that I thought was incredible. I don't know the appropriate way to do this in this meeting, or if it's appropriate, I can show it on my screen, or I can just direct everybody to the website. It's easily printable and publicly available. But they talk about some of the services they provide, which I thought was kind of inspirational, because they have a very wide range of services. So that's available, and they do have a physical space. I would be very interested in attending and going there as well. But I was hoping to have that communication with that staff person ahead of time, just because I thought perhaps then we would have the opportunity to meet with them while we were there.
Right. That makes sense. I would say if you have the link accessible and you want to drop it into the chat, everybody can grab it now, but we can also make sure that it's in the minutes. So let me pick a note. Interestingly enough, I think I actually might be in that building next week. I won't do an official visit, but I can pop my head in and see if what they have, and then we can, if people are interested in scheduling a time to go there, we can do that separately. Actually, let me go through and ask. Is anybody interested in visiting in person? Do you want to? So Fawn, Kathy?
Yeah, I'd like to visit in person as
JD,
well.
Lauren. So okay, so we can try to see if they have a time that would work for people. So I think there might be a little bit more research, kind of figure out their hours and whether or not it would be like during a work day, or if they have any weekend hours or evening hours. So we can do a little bit more research on that. Fawn, do you want to, since you've been doing the emails, do you want to take that on? Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, and I'm going to take, I think that I don't know if I said this already. I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but these items that Beth Brazel at the Lowell Disability Commission have done, I think that those are all great items to add to our list. So for, discussion and prioritization. And so I'm going to take those and add them to that other list that we already have. Any comment on that? Or if is there anything on there that you don't think that we should add to our list?
I think it looks all pretty
JD?
solid.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So then we'll do that. Okay. Any last comments on this agenda item? Okay, so now we get to move on to new business. This includes public comment. Before we get to new business, I do want to acknowledge we do have a guest. Shilpa Jacoby is here. She works at the library, and she's also a Danvers resident. Shilpa, do you have any comments or anything you would like to share with our commission?
Just thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm Shilpa Jacoby, and I do work at the library, and I'm also on the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. I did have a proposition that's probably a long-term goal. Our library has been working on accessibility issues, and we would love to have form a committee at the library and work with you towards reaching some of those goals. I know that can't happen very quickly, but it's just something that I wanted to put out there just to let you know that we'd love to support you in any way, and we'd love to also have that support at the library.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Any comments from the commission? Kathy.
Just a quick question. Are there any specific issues at the library that you see currently that would fall under our commission that need addressing, either small, short-term or long-term?
Where do I start? So it could be something as simple as auditing our building. I was walking through the stacks yesterday, and I noticed we have these chairs that you can climb on to reach books, but then they are in the way if anyone is in a wheelchair, and there was no space to actually move them anywhere else. So just little things like that. We do have people in wheelchairs who come to the library. On the second floor, we have the reference desk. It's really high up. We can't communicate with people in a wheelchair. We do have deaf patrons. No one is ASL certified in our library. So just little things. They're not little things, actually. They're big things. But just things like that we don't think about. And, to serve our patrons better, we would like to have those things addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you. As a parent and a former library trustee, those are all issues that have been brought up many times, especially the stacks being too close together. That's one that I always found. I would love to see like something, not in writing, but just some ideas more formally, if we could think about that maybe from the staff and trustees. I know you guys work together very well, so that would be something just to see what other people's ideas are, that we could kind of work together. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do have a couple of us have been working on a document for a while that we just put down things every time we do think of something or we encounter something. We've been putting it in a document. So we'd be happy to share that with you.
That'd be great. Thank you. JD, do you have any comments?
Yeah. I was just going to say I'd be happy to come in and do like a little audit in my chair anyway. Just cruise around. I've been in the library. Like I remember getting in fine, but I only was kind of like briefly on the lower floor. And like outside of the library, the lawn is definitely can be rough for me because I drive my chair with my head. So like any kind of rough ground is like my driving's pretty sensitive to that. So I like that green space a lot out front. I just think there could be maybe some like a path or something through it, to kind of make it a little more accessible friendly. But then yeah, like I was saying, I'm happy to come in and cruise around and try out the library. I know my wife's a fan of the library, so we could both get over there. And is as far as like our commission meetings, like if we have a conflict of interest, or not a conflict of interest, conflict with someone else booking the Toomey room, like is it okay for us to meet at the library instead? Or
I think that, I mean, I'm going to put on my library trustee hat. I have that for at least 2 more months. Yes, we would just have to book it ahead of time. So reserve it. Jasmine?
I just wanted to offer
Although,
up.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, well, I have a lot of things going on at once. First, to just with the conversation about the library and access, we are in the very, very, very early stages. But I did have conversations with the director about the potential of supporting them through having their own like volunteer DEI task force with employees. So I just wanted to name that so that you can all hold me accountable for that, because that's another branch or group that it has overlapping interests with what you're talking about and some of the work that Shilpa and her colleagues have already done. With the point about meeting location, the only logistical challenge that would pose would be with DCAT. I have on my list though, the booking with Toomey was a double book for this week, and so I do need to look. I don't think there's conflict in the future, but I will double check on that. But I also had on my to-do list to consider the senior center, which is also spacious and already has DCAT hookup. And so a question for you all with the commission would be to consider, I know we've already discussed the possibility of hybrid and versus in-person versus virtual. So if there's a way for us to maybe have a standardized version of like, if we always go in assuming we're going to be hybrid, or if we are like just have it as a backup plan, but having that like confirmation on that will give me clarity on like what to ask for in terms of resources from our community. I do want to follow up on the senior center for that.
Thank you. Yes, I don't know if Brian if you are a good person to ask about this, but whether or not the senior center has the capability for hybrid meeting for, part online, part in person. Okay. So I think maybe we can take that on as investigation, and I'm writing that down as something I can take that on. Can't write and talk at the same time, sorry. I do think that per our discussion last time, our preference would be to be able to be hybrid at any time, allowing for any of our members to be able to be home if necessary, but also specifically JD, since we are our vice chair, to have that option so that it's not problematic in the moment if you need to be home. And so that makes the meeting more accessible for all of us. Continuing through, don't want to like get too derailed. Comments about Shilpa's comments. Lauren, did you have anything that you wanted to add or share or ask?
No, I just think it's a great idea, and I think it's wonderful that somebody actually cares about what our public building looks like and what is, accessible. And of course, I can help too with the physical disability, but obviously Kathy knows more about some of the other things that would be great to, help other things, accessibility things that the library could use.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And Fawn. Do you have any? You're muted. No? Okay.
No, sorry, I was not thinking clearly. Thank you. But
that
no,
is okay.
I don't think I have any comments. I think those are great. I guess I have a question though. Right now, if you have a deaf patron, how do you guys communicate?
Right now we write notes. That's how we communicate. Yeah. Which doesn't always
Okay, thank
also
you.
work for the best for the patron also. So yeah.
Right, especially if they were of limited vision as well.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. And I do know that the library has applied for a grant from the state, from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners on accessibility issues. I'm going to actually put on my list to ask to see a copy of that. I don't know. I know that the director, Noel, was planning to have a meeting with one of the consultants at the Mass Board of Library Commissioners specifically about kind of next steps. But I'll be curious to see like what specifically is listed in that grant, and maybe we can get a copy of it for everybody on the commission so that we know what those priorities are, and where we can kind of assist in those. So add that to my list. Okay. Shilpa, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on to other new business?
No, that's it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. This is great. It feels like a real commission when we have the public showing up and giving comments. So it's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Sophie.
Okay. Any other new business? Jasmine, yeah.
I did just want to name, in thinking about the email that Peggy sent you and I, Christy.
Oh, yes,
just
thank
a
you.
community member who reminded us that
Yes.
Judy Heumann, the mother of the disability movement, actually did pass away on March 4th. And so I just wanted to elevate that in that space in case you haven't heard of her. But she is someone who was very involved in developing and helping pass legislation to support people with disabilities. So just, I can put a link in the chat and it will also be in the minutes when you get them. But just as we're considering, whose work we're trying to model it after, and I'm already hearing great ideas about, looking into what communities we want to aspire to. I just figured it'd be an appropriate space, Women's History Month, etc., to acknowledge a leader in this work.
Thank you so much for remembering that. I did actually manage to get the link to Peggy, but she was not sure that she'd be able to attend as she's out of state right now, but she may attend it for a future meeting. And this is somewhat related to Peggy email, but also to some kind of conversations I've been having with people in the community. I met with the elementary school librarian this week as part of my full-time job, not accessibility commission, but it did kind of move into discussion about access for materials. Right now, the elementary school budgets do not allow for joining the Commonwealth ebook program, which is a statewide program that gives a discount to having ebooks and audiobooks for schools. So that means right now, elementary schools in Danvers, the students don't have access to audiobooks in the same way that they do at the middle school and high school. So one of my hopes that once he's into his role is to set up a meeting with the new superintendent as accessibility commission. And so anybody who would want to join is welcome to. But that's one of the items I would like to bring up. If there are other items about accessibility in schools, specifically, I see you, Kathy. Then that I think that would be a good list to create. Maybe we can add it to our other list. But I think, as a new superintendent coming in, this is an opportunity to kind of get on to their priorities, and seeing what we can do and how we can support the schools in moving forward. Kathy, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm just going to add to your comment. Unfortunately, I don't know how much the special education children of Danvers do have access to Bookshare.
Perkins. Oh, Bookshare.
No.
Okay.
Bookshare, not Perkins. Perkins you do on your own. Anybody can do that. But they do have an account because that's a federal piece.
Okay.
So that goes on. But Danvers doesn't have textbooks that are supported by the Bookshare. And that is a huge disadvantage to children who have a visual and or hearing ability, which is what I personally ran into with mine. But Bookshare is provided, but it's only provided to children who are on an IEP.
And is it only textbooks that are in there,
No,
or does it include
no.
other?
It includes millions of titles. Mostly there's textbook section, there's free reading, all that stuff. So for example, if a child's asked to read, for example, and they read in middle school Wednesday Wars in 6th or 7th grade, I can't remember, that is accessible. So my child could download the book. Unfortunately, most of our teachers don't know about the program.
Yeah.
And the only reason my child even got on the list and we pushed it with Mary Warmers was because her outside consultant, who works with Danvers as a consultant, actually told us about it and said, no, we're getting this for her. So there is that disconnect of there are services out there that the federal government pays for that our students could have access to. We just need someone to connect it.
Great. Awesome. Okay,
So-
that's really useful information. Thank you. When I reach out to the new superintendent, I assume you would like to be part of that conversation.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Perhaps, I mean, it may be possible to even invite him to one of our meetings so that we can all ask questions and bring up. So I'll actually kind of say that invite to meeting. Okay. Anybody else have comments on that item?
I just wanted to name for the
Yes.
public or whoever, I'm not sure even everyone on this call knows, but that Dan Bowers is starting in July. So
Thank you.
just so that we keep our
Yes.
timeline for the list compilation into perspective.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yes, Fawn.
I have to admit ignorance here, and I hope that my questions won't offend, but I want to better understand what the need is for this. So to play perhaps devil's advocate, my understanding is that Epic Books has the read aloud options. I'm just trying to think of arguments also against getting this type of subscription access. These are resources that I am aware of. Why are they inadequate? Or are we talking about just library books? Are we also talking about textbook accessibility? I want to much better understand the need for the audiobooks.
So audiobooks are useful for a wide variety of kids with various needs, many of whom are not on IEPs, in being able, if they have difficulties, if they're dyslexic and have difficulties reading, if they are low vision. Also, sometimes students will do a simultaneous read with a physical book and an audiobook to support comprehension and vocabulary building. There are a lot of different reasons why audiobooks would be useful. And with ebooks, those give students the ability to change the font size of a book. So, they're low, the large print books are very expensive. School libraries rarely have large print versions of the books that are in their collection. I guarantee you that Danvers elementary schools don't have them based on their budget and the size of their buildings. And actually, for a lot of libraries, the largest number of large print books are grown-up titles. They're not kids' titles. And not every child who needs a large print book is eligible for the Perkins Library for blind and low vision. They also can change, for many of them, sometimes they can change the font to like the open dyslexic font. And it just also provides simultaneous access for some of the titles, simultaneous access, which means that more than one student wants to read a book, then they can have access to it. Whereas at the physical school library may just have one title, copy of that book. So, it's a nice to have, but I think it's really important from an access position. Kathy, yes.
It also goes to what it sounds like too. For when you, for example, I work with a lot of teachers English teachers who use an audio of a book while the kids are physically reading it in class so they hear it. It sounds computerized, a lot of it, because they're coming from YouTube and these places. These programs have it designed in a very, it just sounds like a person versus a computer. So
Yeah.
that's another part of it. The Perkins Library is fabulous. And if anybody ever wants to volunteer, you can volunteer to read books. And it goes out to people who want them if they don't have the actual title. So there's other parts to it. And like you said, Christy, there's a lot of kids who don't qualify for IEPs who benefit from listening to a book. Kids that have ADHD or something that just need to calm them. And it just opens it up to a much wider, it'll make kids read more.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing.
It also gives the Commonwealth ebook collection, which is, full disclosure, is actually run under the organization that I work for. I'm not the one in charge of it, but they also collect the titles in other languages. And so that's another, we have a growing student body who speak languages other than English as their primary language at home. And it's hard to get enough titles in the library. The elementary school library budget is very small, and it's split among the 5 schools. So.
Thank you. So just
Yeah.
again, for me to clarify, these are functionalities, the modification of what you see visually on a screen if you were trying to read, the ability to change font, the dynamics of the voice. These are not functionalities that are currently available through any of the online resources like Epic Books that the elementary kids currently have. Is that correct?
That's we have not used Epic Book. I don't know actually all the functionality of that. I will say that the collection that exists in Epic Books is very different than the collection that exists in Commonwealth ebook collection, in my experience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. Other new business ideas or things that have come up? Yes, Jasmine, you're like
I'm
ready
like
to go?
waiting. Sorry, I'm like looking
No.
to see if anyone else had anything. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, Lauren, but I don't know if you wanted to mention the human library idea that you were interested in, especially because Shilpa is on the call, and I had mentioned that that might be something she'd be interested in as well.
I think she has left, but you're welcome to bring it up, and we can bring it up when we meet.
Right, just so you
with
can
library stuff. Yeah,
separately.
absolutely.
It's something we found on Instagram, and I guess they've done it. I saw they did it in Denmark, but I guess they've done it other places that, so instead of going to a library to take a book out, you go and talk to a specific person. Say somebody's been homeless, somebody is, someone who had been in the Holocaust or had family in the Holocaust. Now I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. Someone who's transgender, somebody who's gay. So instead of talk to someone and they talk about their experience, one-on-one. I don't know. Did I explain that? I'm not explaining that well.
So I'm familiar with the program, so I don't.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's, libraries have coordinated. There are actually libraries in Massachusetts have done it, and I know of at least one public library that's working on it right now, but I can't think of which one it is. And so usually they put out a call for volunteers, people who are willing to have, a 10-minute time slot to meet with the public, and you check out a person to hear their experience. It's an empathy building program. It's usually done on like one day, so it's not like people who are in the library have to be available for many, many days. But yeah, and it's called the Human Library. So I can see if there's a link I can drop in. I think that's a great idea to bring up with the library and see if they're interested. And to possibly let them reach out to other libraries in the state that have done it.
Christy, I have the link
Yes.
handy in case
Oh,
you.
awesome. Faster, because my computer has just slowed down. So please, if you want to drop it in there, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so there's the link. Thank you for bringing that up, Lauren. Would you want to reach out to the library?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that would be great.
I'd be happy to speak at one of those too. You know, these are kind of the things I've been looking for, where I'm happy to educate people, just be in front of them, let them ask whatever questions. I have experience with that with, you know, school kids, like speaking in front of schools and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff excites me.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
When I was in 4th grade in Newton, they had a tremendous program, and I actually reached out to the Newton schools, but no one ever called me back. Of course, this would be years ago, but they had a grant to bring in people with different disabilities. They had someone who was paralyzed from the waist down, paralyzed from the neck down, blind, deaf. They came in, we could ask them anything. And as you can imagine with 4th graders, they did. The people who came to visit were asked if it was okay if the children asked to touch certain things on their wheelchair. Some people agreed to that. And then there was an opportunity for us to try to simulate what it would be like to walk in their shoes. And I distinctly remember this program, and I would love to see something like this brought back, because I think kids, they're the right demographic to be for this type of exposure. And adults, I'm not saying we're not modifiable, but I think when you introduce that to kids, I mean, I'm 49. I will never forget trying to navigate through cones in my 4th grade Newton Elementary School with a blindfold on. I'll never forget trying to eat Jell-O with 2 socks on my hand. You know, it was really great. It seems like it's sort of along the lines of what you're mentioning, Lauren, and what you're interested in doing, JD. I guess I'm wondering, I'm starting to get overwhelmed, frankly. There's so many areas for us to explore, but I'm very interested in this idea.
Kathy. Yeah.
Just so you know, Fawn, Perkins School for the Blind does do that program. They come into our school, and when we have students that need it, that have come in with a visual disability, they come in and they train the teachers, and they put us in goggles and different things. And it is dramatic. And we've had them go into classrooms where the student is going to be prior to the student joining the class. And it does make so much more, the transition so much easier. And I'm not just, I don't want just kids. Adults need it too. So I'm going to go for both, because I have pushback from teachers who say, oh, I need to save paper. I'm only doing 10-point font. And I fight with them. I'm like, that's not good for any kid, never mind a kid that's visually impaired. And when they put on the glasses, they're on for 10 seconds and they go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I get it now. So yes, that would be something. It would be great to sponsor something like that as an event, and try to do not just physical disabilities, but a lot of others. And there's programs that already have it set up that we could invite.
This sounds fantastic, and definitely something that we should add to our list. This sounds like maybe a bigger event that we could do as a community education event down the line. So that is it's a project, but that's okay. That's why we're here. So I also was just thinking that it may be worth reaching out to the school PACs and inviting them to join us at meetings, so that they're, that they all have cultural enrichment coordinators, but have them kind of on board and thinking about this as options for cultural enrichment. So it's not, so that when they're looking to choose something to educate kids, that maybe it will be that experience that kids will remember until they're parents themselves. So thank you both for that. Any additional comments here? Yes, Kathy.
I've been the cultural enrichment at Great Oak when my kids were little, and it is a great program. We also should look at introducing ourselves to DPAC?
Yes,
Because,
CPAC, yes. The
Danvers
yes,
Danvers Special Education Parents.
yes.
I can't remember who's running it now.
I actually know. Unfortunately, they're having an event right now.
Yes.
They're having their resource fair right now. But I do know it's two women, both of them named Amanda, and one of them is my neighbor. So I can reach out and maybe we can coordinate, invite them to one of our meetings. Okay.
I still get their information. I saw but yes, we definitely should, just to let them know we are here and we're trying to become active, and
Yeah.
they'd be a good resource.
So I can take that on for both of them, and send out an email invite, and I can actually speak directly to Amanda from CPAC. Thank you. I just noticed that the captions did a totally different kind of CPAC than what we have, but CPAC is SEPAC. There we go.
I also just wanted to offer up, as well as we're thinking about people in the schools. Oh my goodness, her name just flew out of my head. Juliana Spiros, who is the I forget the specific title, ELL teacher or specialist for the middle school and high school. I had spoken to her about my plans for recommissioning this group, and she had expressed that interest as well. I know we're all taking on a lot, or it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done, but I want to make sure that we're also thinking of like our non-native English speakers in the community. And a lot of this, already as an umbrella to the way Kathy mentioned, this isn't just these things, accommodations don't just support people with disabilities, right? They support all kinds of people. But she's another one. And I believe I talked to one of the Amandas about from the CPAC about this as well. So just naming that, if it's helpful, some of those connections, I had already planted that seed. So I'm
Awesome.
excited for you to go water it, to keep the metaphor going.
Cool. So I will, I can actually just draft, make a big note to draft a general invitation email, kind of an introduction and invitation. And I can have that ready for our next meeting. I will do the invite for the school PACs. And also I'll include Juliana on that as well. And then Jeff Dugan from Mass Office of Disability. But I'll also have that text to share with everybody. So if anybody thinks of somebody that they think would be a great resource for us, or a collaborator, then you can also send out an invitation. And you don't have to worry about kind of coming up with the text for that email. So. Adding that to my list. Okay. Any other new business? Okay, hearing none. We are at 7 o'clock, which is a really lovely and good time for a meeting, solid hour meeting. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Sure, yeah. Motion to adjourn.
I heard a motion from JD. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, second from Fawn. We're going to go through and do a roll call vote. Kathy?
Yes.
JD?
Yes.
Seems silly to ask when you made the motion, but we do. Lauren?
Yes.
And Fawn?
Yes.
Okay, so we are officially adjourned. Our next meeting is April 27th at 6 p.m. in the Toomey room. Okay. Thank you, everyone. This went swimmingly for our very first virtual meeting. And thank you, Brian from DCAT. We are done.